Hello, Saints. Welcome in for another week together in this midweek video. Today, I want to just take a look at a few verses in Deuteronomy 28. Some of the blessings that we receive from God are inherent. They come from God for no apparent reason. And there are some blessings that come to us based on our obedience to Him. And this chapter lines that out. There are 68 verses, this is interesting, 68 verses in the 28th chapter of Deuteronomy. 14 of those verses deal with the blessing of obedience. The remaining 54 verses deal with the consequences of disobedience. One would think that when the Lord was having Moses or whoever wrote Deuteronomy, had them write this, that he knew he was dealing with human beings, that the consequences of disobedience needed far more attention. We need to be people who are willing to be obedient to God and to give ourselves to Him in obedience. I'm not going to read all of these verses, but in Deuteronomy 28, he said, if you obey the voice of the Lord and be careful to do His commands, and Jesus said, if you love me, you'll do my commandments. He said, God will set you high above all the nations. Then he says, these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you. This is what's great about God's blessings. God's blessing, you just be obedient. God's blessings will overtake you. You say, well, they haven't arrived yet. Well, just keep walking, keep marching, keep being obedient. God's blessings, because of the promise that He made, will overtake you as you and I obey Him. And then he goes through this sort of a list. It's not really a list, but he goes through this identification of areas that God would bless us, and areas that His blessings would overtake us. In verse 3, he says, blessed in the city, blessed you'll be in the city, and blessed shall you be in the field. That pretty well covers everything. That's every geographical, every economical, every political sphere possible, every area of our life. It pretty well covers everything. Blessed are you in the city, and blessed are you in the field. And then he goes on to say, blessed shall be the fruit of your womb, and the fruit of your ground, and the fruit of your cattle, the increase of your herds. Verse 11, he sort of echoes that again. The Lord will make you abound in prosperity in the fruit of your womb. The Lord will bring you plenty of goods. Bless you with offspring. Some of us might not consider that a blessing, but the truth is it is. It is a blessing. The produce of the ground, or whatever it is that you put your hand to, whatever it is that you apply yourself to in obedience to God, there will be prosperity there. In the case of a agrarian culture, their livestock would increase, which was legal tender, which was the signature of their wealth. Livestock for us is that which services us, and also that the vehicles of provision. So you could convert that to whatever it is that God sends our way to be a servant to us and to be a vehicle of our provision. So livestock in the Old Testament may be your job in the New Covenant, New Testament. And now verse 5 of this chapter, he says, blessed shall be your basket and your kneading bowl, K-N-E-A-D-I-N-G. Verse 5, it's where you store your provision, where you prepare your provision, but more importantly, your barn of productivity, your place of productivity. Where is it that you're being productive? What is it that you're applying your hand, your feet to that results in productivity in life for the Lord? Now, not all productivity, let me just add this, not all productivity looks like a church service. Not all productivity has religious speak connected to it. If you're a ditch digger by profession, Bible says, walk worthy of the vocation to which you've been called. If you're a ditch digger, then you dig the best ditch that's ever been dug in history. And that's one of the most spiritual things you can do. You don't have to quote Bible verses while you're doing it. Just do it with integrity and with diligence. And God will bless that activity. He will bless your productivity. Let me see, I got something. Well, anyway, in verse 12, it says, you'll receive from God's storehouse. Listen to these words. The Lord will open to you. He will open to you his good treasury, the heavens, to give the rain to your land in its season, to bless all the works of your hands. Now that's what we want. We want to be able to apply ourselves in obedience to God, whatever area, whatever field that we're plowing in and sowing seed in. We want to be able to apply ourselves so that through his blessing we receive the treasure from God, from the storehouse of heaven. What better place to receive your blessings than from the storehouse of heaven? He said, and he'll bless the work of your hand. I've already alluded to that. But whatever your hands are applied to, whatever you're applying your hands to, God will bless that. He will bless you in the work of your hand. He goes on to say in verse 13, he said, you're not going to be the head. You're going to be the head, not the tail. You're going to be above and not beneath. He said, you're going to go up and not down. Some time ago, I taught a series, and I think I wrote several of the kernels of truth on the topic of being elevated to God's game. God is always interested in elevating us. Now, sometimes we have to humble ourselves before he can elevate us. But God's always interested in you going up, not pushing you down. He's always interested in you being the head of your situation and not the tail. In other words, not letting someone or something else dictate your movements, dictate your life, and dictate your decisions. He said, you're above and not beneath. You're on top of the game. You're on top of God's game. And he will elevate you to that place and continue to bless you. And then he says in verse 14, he says, now here's what you got to do. You got to be obedient. He says this all the way through. But then in verse 14 he says, if you do not turn aside from any of the words that I command you today, to the right hand or to the left, to go after gods, to serve them. Let me read the whole verse. It really makes more sense. The Lord will make you the head and not the tail, and you shall go up and not down, if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you, being careful to do them, and do not turn aside to the right or the left. So our part is that we focus our lives on him, and that we don't turn to the right, we don't turn to the left, but we have our compass set to true north, so that we're following the path. And I'll just finish today with 5 questions. I've got them written down here. 5 questions that we have to ask ourselves. I don't know the answer to these to you. For you, I have to know them for me. Am I totally and without condition surrendered to God the Father? Have I set my direction and steps to be faithful to him regardless of my circumstances? Have I been a good caretaker of what God has placed in my hands? Is my trust and confidence solely and only in the Lord Jesus? And lastly, can I commit, or have I committed, to all of the above for the long haul? Well, we can answer those questions each individually for ourselves, and hopefully we can answer them in the affirmative. Well, you just, every now and then, look over your shoulder, because due to your obedience and faithfulness to God, his blessings are about to overtake you. And I pray that they do. You go out there and act like somebody, and you have yourself a great and a blessed week. Good day.